Democracy is one of these words that we are all taught growing up to have unconditioned loyalty to. Democracy, in some ways, is the new god of the Western world. To be against democracy is to be evil in the modern world. Democracy is the one unquestionable good that you cannot challenge or go against without being an enemy of the people. But democracy is incoherent and would not be desirable even if it was coherent. Setting aside the fact that the people who are most in need of leaders are the least qualified to choose them, let's just address this question of whether democracy is real. Because certainly in America, what we have is an oligarchy. And it masquerades as a democracy, as sort of a shield. Oligarchs use the word democracy to shield themselves from scrutiny. It's like a moral pass on whatever actions they take. The people, the all-knowing people, elected this government. Therefore, whatever this government does is in some sense moral because it's just carrying out the actions of the people, desires of the people, as if that was a coherent body. There are always rulers in every society. In a democracy, in a so-called democracy, they're just hidden from sight. At the very least, in any system, the people who count the votes could be considered oligarchs. The wealthy, rich folks who have billions of dollars to throw around to influence politics, they could be considered oligarchs. And they are. But maybe more importantly, the real oligarchs are, in America, they are the media industrial complex. Because humans are not fundamentally free thinkers. We're not fundamentally rational. We're not fundamentally individualistic. These are all things that the modern world has told us, lies that the modern world has told us. The reality is that human beings are very, very programmable. Our minds, in that sense, are not all that different from a computer. And the operating system that runs on that computer is the narrative that we are taught by the education system and by the media. The media, quite literally, have the power to create the reality in which people live. There's not really a separation between a person's perception of reality and that person's reality. So if you consume a lot of CNN or NPR, that is your reality. To you, the circumstances described by the people on those shows That's the world that you're living in. And you're living in a fundamentally different world from someone who gets their information from sources on the other side of the aisle. And it's not just a question of focusing on different issues or presenting things in a slightly different way. We're talking about fundamentally different realities. And there is so much deviation now that there is no common ground. There's no common starting point or common precepts or axioms. If you are someone who listens to NPR, then the only people who you have common ground with, or the common axioms from which your worldview is derived, are other people who also listen to NPR. And those axioms are oftentimes very seemingly moderate, very normal, undisputed things that not many people would argue with. Ideas like democracy being inherently good, the idea that all men are created equal, or that debate and discussion is inherently good. Or that equality is good. Equality is not good, by the way. Equality is almost synonymous with death, but that needs to be a separate conversation. A so-called democracy, when you implement a so-called democracy, you're just handing power back to the folks who write the software that runs people's minds. You're just making the oligarchs the folks who run the media, the folks who run the education system. Those are your new oligarchs. And there are probably others, but those are the people in control. There is no democracy. It's an illusion. It's a bad joke. It's kind of a pathetic game that people play, where it's like we pretend that we're all these rational thinking individuals who are going to look at both sides and come to logical conclusions. Well, let's look at the evidence. What does the evidence say? No, that's not how people think. And by the way, I'm not saying that's how dumb people don't think, and maybe you're better, or that some people should be better. No, I'm saying nobody thinks like that. No human being thinks like that. That's not how the brain works. The brain works like this. Your culture tells you what to think, and you think it. That's how it works. The only exceptions to that, and they're incredibly rare, maybe 1 in a million, that's being generous. The only exceptions are people who have such rare DNA that they are willing to consider the possibility that everything they have been told their entire lives is a lie. It's likely you will go your whole life without ever meeting someone who fits that description.